Hi, I'm Joni Rogers from Stella's Umbrella, and I have to tell you about The Cleaner of Chartres. Oh, read it, read it, read it. It's so good. Salley Vickers, who you can always count on. She's written Aphrodite's Hat, was one of my early favorites of hers, and instances of the number 3. Is it uses or instances? But anyway, that's something about the number 3. But anyway, she's so good. And this book, as you can probably guess, because Chartres is set in France, and I love books that are set in France. I love being in France. And in a weird way, this was actually closer to the experience of being in France than the experience of reading about France, because it was such an encounter with this very richly described place and beautifully rendered people of the town, and all centering around a very intriguing main character. The heroine is very likable and not very typical because, number one, she's in her 40s. And I love that because, you know, we've all had it with Holly Golightly, and I've read that book. And so I love reading about a woman who has the maturity to sort of process things, and yet the youthfulness and innocence and vulnerability that this character has. Agnès is her name, and she is remarkable not so much in who she is herself, but kind of in what she seems to elicit from the people around her. People talk to her in her capacity as the cleaner of the cathedral in Chartres. She's there in the church, and so people of the town kind of come and go around her, and she ends up hearing their stories, which just sort of pour out to her. The old biddies of the town who are like the gossips, and the young lovers who are struggling to find themselves, and the clergy who should be struggling to find themselves. And they all become fascinated with the story of her mysterious past. What we know from the beginning, or early on, is that she was a foundling who was raised in this convent by the nuns, but we get this sense, and ultimately it's revealed, that she did have this very damaging and difficult past that she has sort of come to terms with by the end of the book. And it sort of examines the power of gossip and the power of goodness, and the presence of goodness, I think, in people, and the charmingness of people, even when they're not at their most charming. I thought she did such a great job with all these secondary characters. It's like this beautiful collection of vignettes that form a really beautiful little novel. I think this could be so wonderfully made into a really great movie. Hey, you actresses in your 40s, embrace, option, do this book as a movie. The one thing that kind of freaked me out in this book, that truly, Salley Vickers, if you're out there, spin this off into a whole nother book or a short story or something. There's, near the cathedral, and maybe this is sort of symbolic or something, I have to think about it further, but near the cathedral, there is this doll hospital, and the weirdly icky guy who fixes dolls at the doll hospital. Okay, for starters, dolls scare the shit out of me. I don't know, there's just something creepy about dolls to begin with. Maybe what it is that we project on little girls with our imagery of dolls. I don't know. I just find dolls in general very creepy. And this guy has some kind of weird fixation on the dolls, if you'll pardon the pun. It's like, yeah, he's fixated on the fixing of the dolls. And it's just weirdly icky, but beautifully written. And while I was reading that part of the book, I was just appreciating what a really fine author she is. This isn't the first Salley Vickers novel that I've read, and I'm definitely going to go back and poke around the stacks and come up with some of her older books. Meanwhile, check it out, highly recommended, The Cleaner of Chartres by Salley Vickers.